Calling to order the Monday, April 4th regular meeting of the 36th Council of the City of Berkeley. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Blanchard. Councilmember Edgar.
Here.
Councilmember Kadekel.
Here.
Councilmember Stedman.
Here.
Councilmember Turbrack.
Here.
And Mayor O'Dwyer.
Here. Now, the first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Baker with support by Councilmember Kadekel. Are there any changes, additions? Hearing none, then, Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll?
Edgar.
Yes.
Kadekel.
Yes.
Stedman.
Yes.
Turbrack.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now we have Reverend Hannah Gregory with us this evening to lead us in the invocation. Please stand.
If you'd bow your heads to pray. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together and use the gifts and the resources and the people that you have blessed this city with. God, I pray that you would bless this time. Let it be used wisely, Lord. Grant discernment and wisdom where we need to be making decisions. And Father, we thank you again for this wonderful city that we get to live in. I pray that you would have your way in this meeting. In your name we pray. Amen.
Now please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we come to the citizens' comments portion of tonight's meeting, when you may present your thoughts on issues that are not included on tonight's agenda. Council members will not engage you in discussion. If your concern needs to be addressed by a member of city staff or a department of the city, please sign your name on the sheet provided at the clerk's desk. You may speak on a specific agenda item when it is being considered. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and city of residence.
John DeLong, City of Berkeley. I read in the newspaper that there's a pending deal between T-Mobile and Vincetta Garage, and I understand the mayor and city council had a role in this agreement coming together. I'd still like to read the whole agreement, but I wanted to thank city council and Mayor O'Dwyer for being persistent and working on this. I'm not so naive as to believe this will solve all of our problems, but it's a step in the right direction, and I thank you.
Thank you, John.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Anthony Joseph. I'm a 23-year resident of Berkeley on Cambridge. I wanted to just bring up a real quick point on to the tree removal service. I was recently out of town, came home, saw these beautiful pink dots on these trees, beautiful trees that, you know, aesthetically look very good. I know there was a criteria. I saw the letter that was given to my neighbor for the criteria that was used. But I was curious, and certainly this would obviously be brought up at a different time, but you know, how involved the city was in that decision-making process, or was it simply the tree service that made the decision? So I'd like to know what people were involved in the tree decision-making. You know, there's this high volume of trees that seem to be needing to go. And I was just kind of leads me to the question of how we're paying for it. If it's a bulk service, we're paying per tree. If the service has a benefit to cut more trees down. It just seems like, you know, a cost benefit is, you know, I'm sure you guys did a cost benefit analysis when deciding to do this, but you know, there's a lot of things involved in that. There's the aesthetics, the sound reduction that the trees provide, the air quality, especially when you live close to Woodward like I do. You know, these trees really provide a great deal of benefit, and the character and makeup of the city is really going to change, particularly my block. I noticed that there was probably, I think, 9 out of about 14 trees ready to be cut down. So, you know, it just seems like we are changing the whole look of what that's like. So at some point, I was just wondering if there would be a way to get more answers into how the decision-making was made, who made the decision. I saw the criteria that was sent out, but it just seems like we're changing the look of Berkeley, and very concerned about that. And then finally, the pink dots on the tree. This may be very minor, but that's horrible. I don't know who made that decision, but aesthetically, it looks really bad. There had to be a better way to mark those trees. So, thank you very much for.
Thank you. If you would place your name on the sheet there at the clerk's desk, someone will have a response for those
Sure.
questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Matt Church, Berkeley Public Library, would just like to mention that we'll be showing Star Wars The Force Awakens, rated PG-13, at the library on Saturday, April 9th at 2 p.m. Open for all, no registration needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Deeds, 45-year resident of Berkeley. I'm proud of it. I have two things. Beautification meeting Wednesday, the 13th at 6:30 p.m. across the way there at the Public Safety, second floor. It's open to anybody to help in the planting and maintaining some of the projects that we have got going in the city of Berkeley to make this a better looking community. The second thing, the Berkeley School Board has raised approximately 75 to 100 volunteers for parks and recs, along with the community garden. Saturday the 16th at 9 till 12. If any of the public citizens of Berkeley would like to help out, they can contact the school board and they can ask about what particular projects that are going on. We have quite a number of parks within the city of Berkeley that are hand in hand with the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else coming to the microphone, then we will move on to the consent agenda. Ms. Boucher, would you please read tonight's items on the consent agenda?
Approval of the minutes, matter of approving the minutes of the regular 36th City Council meeting on Monday, March 21, 2016, and special meeting on Monday, March 28, 2016. Proclamation number P0316, matter of celebrating the 144th anniversary of Arbor Day and designating the week of Sunday, April 10th through Saturday, April 16, 2016 as Arbor Week.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Moved to approve by Councilman Kideckel with support by Councilmember Edgar. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll?
Kideckel,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now we move on to the regular agenda. Ms. Boucher, would you please read the first item on the regular agenda?
Recognitions, presentations, matter of any recognitions or presentation from the consent agenda.
I have asked Councilmember Kideckel to read Proclamation 0316.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A proclamation of the Council of the City of Berkeley, Michigan, celebrating the 144th anniversary of Arbor Day and designating the week of Sunday, April 10th through Saturday, April 16th, 2016 as Arbor Week. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees and stated, other holidays repose upon the past. Arbor Day proposes for the future. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen and provide habitat for wildlife, increase property value, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas the City of Berkeley is proud to be a recipient of the Tree City USA Award for the 26th consecutive year, and in 2004, Berkeley became the first community in the state of Michigan to receive the Sterling Award as a leader and innovator in community forestry. And Whereas it is in the intent of the City Council to pledge its commitment to the understanding, education, and support of the global environmental challenge, and therefore to spotlight for our community some of the best things this city can affirm. Now, therefore, the City of Berkeley proclaims, Section 1, that the week of Sunday, April 10th through Saturday, April 16th, 2016, be and hereby is designated as Arbor Week in the City of Berkeley. And the City Council urges all residents to nurture and care for existing trees, as well as plant new ones, and become aware of how beneficial trees are to the Earth's beauty and environment. And Section 2, that Wednesday, April 13th, 2016, is hereby proclaimed as Arbor Day in the City of Berkeley, and all residents are urged to support efforts to care for our trees and to support the Berkeley Tree Board celebrating their 26th anniversary, pursuing various programs, making the community aware of the importance of trees, bushes, and shrubs. And Section 3, in celebration of the above, the Beautification Advisory Committee, Berkeley High School, and Tree Board have organized the first annual Berkeley Tree Walk on Saturday, April 16th at 10 a.m. Volunteers will meet at the Berkeley High School parking lot north of Catalpa and distribute door hangers, flyers around the city promoting the fall tree planting program. Proclaim this 4th day of April 2016 at a regular meeting of the City of Berkeley Council. Phil O'Dwyer, Mayor.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 2 on tonight's agenda?
Motion number M1516, matter of extending the sewer maintenance services contract to Liquiforce Services Incorporated, located at 28529 Goddard Road, Romulus, Michigan, for a 3 years term expiring in 2019.
Is there a motion to approve M1516?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilmember Kadekel with support by Councilmember Stedman. Chief Eshman.
Yes, our current 3-year contract with Liquiforce is expiring. A 3-year extension by mutual agreement of the parties is provided for in that current contract. The DPW Director, Mr. Derek Schuler, is here to address the matter.
Good evening.
Evening.
So before you tonight is an extension of an existing contract with Liquiforce, and this is for the structural lining program that we've been doing now for 20 years. Very proud of this program, where we essentially put a liner inside of our existing sewer pipes, and it's a structural liner, so the old pipe can in fact disintegrate, and we have a pipe in place without having to do open excavation. So this is something Berkeley has been doing long before I arrived. It's a great precedent, so we're going to continue to do it. We set up a 3-year contract 3 years ago with Liquiforce as bid services, and that is expiring this June. And I thought for sure we would be rebidding this service. If you recall, the SAW grant, this was pre-SAW grant, and now the market has totally changed, and these services are in high demand, and rest assured, the prices have increased. I was surprised to see Liquiforce submit a letter basically willing to hold their prices for an additional 3 years at those rates, and I'm very comfortable saying that those are great prices, and we should jump on this and extend it. I'm only comfortable doing these extensions one time. I think, as you know, we do this from time to time when it's right, but after the 3 years, we will end up rebidding this out. But this is the right time to extend, and again, they're going to hold their unit prices for another 3-year term. So something we should take advantage of. We'll make sure they get all the necessary insurance submitted, and every year we're doing $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 worth of lining. So I'm proud to say this past fiscal year we did just short of a mile of structural lining in Berkeley. So very proud of that. Everything went smooth. Liquiforce has been doing a great job for a number of years now. I also suspect with the SAW grant that there will be new contractors entering this market, which means we need to be very dot our i's, cross our t's next time, because I do suspect there'll be a bunch of new players getting into this game. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the lining program or otherwise.
Any great. Mayor Pro Tem Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for bringing this before us, and I share your joy in the fact that they chose to renew this or extend this for another 3 years. I think that's great. Could you briefly just describe a little bit more about what the process entails from a resident's perspective? Do they notice any disruption in service? Can you talk a little bit about it so folks
Sure,
can understand?
sure.
Thank you.
There's a very short disruption in service. So essentially what happens here is they go in, they clean and video the lines, the public lines, prep it, and then basically put essentially a sock inside the liner and use hot water to chemically create that hard new structure inside of the old pipe. And then they come in with a robot afterwards and cut in all of the individual tap locations from all the residential connections. That's essentially the process, and they can do that. They send out hand-deliver notices to all the residents involved. There's 2 sets of notices that are given, one giving general project information, and then as they get closer and closer to doing the work, they pass out another notice. And we field a handful of questions every year from folks wanting to learn more, but all in all, it works really well.
Thank you for that. And the again, just so we're aware, what's the average lifespan of the relined sewers? I mean, is it good for 5 years?
No,
50 years?
they say 90 years, because it's essentially a brand new pipe. They do warranty it. I believe it's 2 full years, and I don't believe we've ever had a warranty concern at all with this work, which in itself is pretty remarkable. And as you know, we're going through the pipes regularly, videotaping it, so we would see something unusual, bring it to their attention. So it's essentially like having a brand new pipe in place. So the longevity of the pipe itself, which they say 90, 100 years is not that unusual for these type of systems. It's essentially a plastic pipe, epoxy type pipe in place.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And you mentioned annually we get about a mile's worth out of each?
It does vary depending on the funding involved. In different sizes, pipe are more, the larger pipes are more expensive. So it depends, Councilman, how much we can do. Of late, though, we're almost getting a mile a year. So
Nice.
now we have 50 miles of sewer in Berkeley. So it gives you some context of what we're doing. And we're still thinking that we've got right around between 20 and 30% of the entire city lined. If you're thinking about that, I should have a concrete number on that very soon with the SAW grant. We're going to be able to have firm figures, but 20 to 30% of the city is structurally lined, which is remarkable.
Nice. Thank you.
Very good. Any additional questions or discussion on this item? It's a very important item. It certainly consumes a lot of money, but it's an investment in the future. And nobody sees it. It's all on the ground, but it's doing a good job for us. So thank you, Derek. Ms. Bowers, would you please call the roll on M1516?
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Edgar?
Yes.
Hidalgo?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 3?
Motion number M1616, matter of approving special use approval, permitting an office use for Andrew Gilbert at 2782 Coolidge.
Is there a motion to approve M1616?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Stedman with support by Councilmember Turbrack. Chief?
Yes, we have the city planner, Amy Vanson, who will address this issue.
Good evening. Before you use the special land use request, and as you know, state law and local ordinance allow for a city to determine which uses will be permitted in zoning districts. So you have principal permitted uses, you have prohibited uses, and in between those are special land uses. Principal permitted uses are ones that administration can approve. Special land uses are those that go before the Planning Commission for a public hearing, for extra review, and ultimately to City Council to approve. Back prior to 2000, 12 Mile and Coolidge were zoned local business, and Woodward was zoned Woodward business. And In 1999-2000, the Downtown Development Authority had a report drafted by their consultants at the time that was concerned about the proliferation of office uses within the downtown areas in particular, but specifically in the DDA, which is 12 Mile and Coolidge. And so there was a recommendation of ways to encourage retail. And the Planning Commission looked at that report and thought that the areas that already had municipal parking credit, which are areas that are within 500 feet of a municipal parking lot, they don't need to provide their own parking, any of the businesses that are within that area, that those seem to be areas where this idea of not so much allowing offices and really wanting to require retail uses would be the best, because obviously if you're going to say you can only have retail and restaurants and you have parking for an accountant's office, it doesn't really work. Then you just have a vacant building. That's not good. So the thought was these areas with municipal parking credit would be the areas that would be what we ended up calling this downtown zoning district. So that's why this is before you, rather than it just being signed off on administratively like the rest of 12 Mile and Coolidge would be. So Mr. Gilbert has owned this particular building since 2010, and they had a retail eyeglass store there. The building's about 500 square feet, give or take, and I guess the eyeglass business is booming. They have moved the business further down onto south of this, and since Mr. Gilbert owns the building and the eyeglass is his wife's business, he is a manager at Van Dyke Mortgage. He was interested in moving Van Dyke Mortgage from Farmington Hills to Berkley and have the business there since he already owns the building. The Planning Commission held a public hearing. There were no comments, and the Planning Commission has made a recommendation that this approval be for Van Dyke Mortgage, operated by Andrew Gilbert, owner-operated only, and that should the property be sold or transferred, then the special land use would cease. Now, at that time, that doesn't mean that nobody gets to come in for an office, but it would get re-reviewed. If another tenant or another owner wanted to operate an office again, it would then come back before. There's no continuing use then.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Svensson on this one? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you again for bringing this together, for helping us understand the process and things like that. I do have some few comments on this, and I don't know if there's folks in the audience that'd like to participate as well. But yeah, first I'd certainly like to thank the applicant. I don't know if they're here today or, okay. But to thank them for choosing Berkley not once but twice. I mean, with the two businesses, I think is great. You know, with the eyeglass, sunglass thing and all that stuff is great. And then also the consideration for choosing Berkley as their home for this mortgage company. I think that's awesome. We'd love to have them here someplace. I will be strenuously opposing this one tonight, and it's not because of the business or what they're trying to do, just this particular location and its impact on our downtown. So just kind of wanted to let you guys know where I'm coming from up front as part of the dialogue here, and I'm not sure to what extent we may want to speak to the different criteria that are involved in reviewing such a thing. I do know that it was considered in the prior sessions, and I thought maybe there'd be an opportunity to add additional comment or two along the way and at least kind of indicate where I'm coming from on this. So I'll just I'll check in there for process. Would we want to see if there's any other public comments, or should I just keep going, or what do you think?
Well, if there's anybody from the public that wants to weigh in on this, first of all. Yes, somebody wants to weigh in. Please come to the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry, and I'm owner of Tootie and Tallulah's in Berkley on Coolidge, and my partner Sally is with me here tonight. Our concern for that area was that in the history of that store, there was quite it has always been pretty much retail. There was Berkley Eyewear, and then before that it was a sheet music retail store, and before that it was an ice cream store that never came to fruition, I guess, and then there was another hop and wearable store and a beauty shop and so forth. And since then, since we've been at Tootie and Tallulah's in 2010, we have been known to understand that the city wanted to promote the intent of this downtown district, which we are a part of, is to where it would have walkable walkable retail where there was to encourage that retail traffic. And so Berkley Eyewear has, where they're located now, and since Tootie and Tallulah's been here in 2010, has been a really kind of a niche market where we actually are trying to establish on Coolidge that we can send down people from Tootie and Tallulah's to different places, and it's becoming a little more accessible, and so that was kind of part. It's right along the way there, and the percentages that were talked about as far as the office as opposed to the other, as far as the retail versus offices versus service versus restaurants, that the retail should be more, and the office is a little less. But if it does get approved, that we will have as much office space as we do retail space in that area, and that's probably not a good idea as far as building a downtown district. So our concern is that Sally and I do a lot of advertising. We spend a lot of our budget on advertising, and we promote that so that people are actually coming to Berkley, and we send them other places, and we want to continue to do that. And so we are opposed to it being an office space only because we think it's ideal retail space along Coolidge there. We've had people come to us for years now. We've been there since 2010, saying, until you guys came, honestly, we could walk up and down Coolidge and there was really no place to stop. People like walk and ride their bikes and stop in, and before that there was really no accessible retail to speak of. Everything was on 12 Mile. So our concern is that we hope that it will stay retail. We did put a courtesy call into the Gilberts to let them know how we felt about this. And at the beginning, when we did all join together, there was a faction of people that were trying to get this Coolidge collection going, and along Coolidge, and they were quite a retail rah-rah team. Sally and I weren't really a part of it because we feel like we're just not on Coolidge, we are Berkley. And we want to promote everything in Berkley. We send everyone everywhere. We shop small ourselves, and we're a big proponent of shopping small. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Andy Gilbert. We're the owners of the building in question.
Great.
You know, I first have to ask why anybody would be vehemently opposed to letting this happen. It's quite an unusual word to use, you know, for this. But let's talk about retail and office. Okay, I have probably anywhere from 15 to 30 customers a month, which come in to my office and use my services, as well as they bring spouses and children and mother-in-laws. They shop, they eat, they do everything that a retail shopper would do. To think that this is, I think we're arguing over the word office and the word retail. Berkley Eyewear in its best month will see only 50 or so patients, but yet we call it retail. Van Dyke Mortgage will see very, very, very close to that, and those people will shop and those people will eat, as well as it wasn't my first alternative for the building. At 590 square feet, there are not a whole lot of options for retail users for that space. I don't know where all those other retail businesses that were in there, but the owner of the building prior to me couldn't get a permit to open from the city council because he was not a record. He was a production service. He wasn't a retail at all. Before that, it was an accounting office. I don't understand the difference between the customers that come to my shop versus any one of the retail shops. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in on this? I see the chairman of planning down there. Does he want to, or has he already made his point? Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll weigh into this a little bit. When it came before the Planning Commission, I was torn a little bit by what we were doing, knowing that we're trying to push retail in the city. What I didn't see was any response from the DDA. What their feelings were, we got no report from the DDA, which I felt would have helped us a little bit better to have a better understanding of where they were coming from with this area. But then I looked at it from the standpoint of, do we want an empty building? Or do we want to put something in there that will attract some people, people who will do business, and hopefully will do business with Van Dyke, and look at the rest of the street and maybe participate in the retail areas that are already there. I just hate to see an empty building. So not having any input from the DDA on it and listening to Mr. Gilbert, I was felt that the best use at this time and point of time is to give him the special use. Now it only goes with him. If he moves out and goes away, the special use disappears, and that's up to the next person who comes in and uses the building. So that was the basis of how I looked at it, and I think that's sort of the way most of the members of the Planning Commission, but I can't speak for each and every one of them. But that's my view.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And now back to the council. Mr. Councilman Kideckel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really torn hearing from everybody here tonight, and I want to thank all of you for being here. I know that Coolidge is always struggling to get more retail. That's been their cry, so to speak. You know, we want more retail. We want to be like 12 Mile Road and try to bring people in. With Van Dyke being an office building, yeah, they come to you, but I think you're the destination. They're going to come to you, possibly get the mortgage done, and then move on. With the retail, like I remember the Coolidge Collection, they were trying to build up the retail atmosphere in that area. And that's been a struggle for them for many years. To say that the building's going to remain empty all the time, I don't know. We don't know that. We don't know that. I'm just curious if I may ask my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem, was this ever discussed at a DDA meeting or that you're aware of?
Mayor, thank you, Honor. Thank you for your thoughts as well. The timing of this was between DDA meetings, so they haven't had a formal session to discuss this. It may have been in the works prior to that, and it wasn't surfaced in any of the meetings anyway. But yeah, I really am glad that you guys are here, and I do mean my appreciation is sincere for your choice of the city. Just this one particular spot. I think I said strenuous rather than vehemently, but I guess they're close enough in terminology for sure, especially given this is an important part of your business here. I do think that there is a difference in a destination that maybe somebody will do something else versus the opportunity to just stroll and enjoy. It says, hey, I think I'll pop in there and get a blank, or I think I'll try out something. So I kind of see where you're going with that as well. And there are a number of wonderful properties throughout our city that would benefit from an office opportunity like this, and hopefully something could be worked out if this were to go a different direction. Again, I like the idea of keeping these buildings occupied. I think just like our property values at home, the housing stock is moving very quickly. I think the opportunities here have yet to be fully tested. I mean, it's a nice compact site, structurally very sound. I think with a bit of marketing, who knows what kind of great opportunities that could bring in as an additional source of revenue for you and for the city. So When I look at the different criteria that was described, there's 5 different aspects of it that go to that, and it's like on each of those I'm kind of just not so sure. So when I feel all of that, and then hearing from our businesses who were here tonight, it's really causes me to say, I think we should rethink this. So I'll pause there. Thank you.
Any additional, Councilmember Edgar?
I'm torn because I agree that 28% having offices on Coolidge is not a good percentage. It should be far less. And yet, what do you put in 500 square feet? That's the size of a small hotel room.
Councilmember Turbrack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a lot of ambivalence on council this evening with this in particular, it seems. To me, we have an owner, the building owner, who has been in the city for a few years, has done some things, has moved to another building in the city. Nobody wants to see a vacant building anywhere. At least I don't. I shouldn't say nobody. I don't want to speak for anybody else. I don't like to see vacant buildings anywhere, especially in our downtown area. And I understand the retail argument here. However, I would tend to agree personally more with the assessment of the Planning Commission, Chairman Barnett. I would like to see somebody in there, and I understand the business owners, in the neighborhood as well, who have concerns about this. But, at this point, we are allowing somebody to come in and to continue using a building, to have some folks show up to that building, hopefully. And I do agree that a mortgage company is a little different than a place where you're going to shop. However, they're still going to be in our city. And once they're in our city and they're driving down Coolidge, they see all the great places that we have there. Maybe they go a little further and potentially could stop there, maybe stop and get gas. And I think there are opportunities whenever you're bringing somebody into your city. And the other, for me personally, the fact that this is a special use that only stays with the current applicant, I'm comfortable. I mean, this is not a complete rezoning and saying this is going to be an office forever. It's not. I certainly wish the applicant the best of luck, but if in some situation or decides to move somewhere else, whatever the case may be, the building then will have the opportunity for somebody else to come in and certainly make it a retail spot if they would like to. So for me personally, I'd like to get people in the building. I'd like to get people hopefully continuing to come through our city. The size of the building is less of a concern for me. I mean, there are a lot of folks who could make something work retail in that sort of space, I'm sure, as well, very creative individuals. But personally, I am inclined to support this and to continue having somebody in that building right now and to continue bringing people into the city. Strictly special land use, as I mentioned, with this applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Stedman.
I think probably I will vote for this a special use. And I think it's different than if Mr. Gilbert were renting it to somebody else that was bringing an office in. But since he owns the building, I think that is what would sway my decision on this. And I do think 500 and some square feet is rather small for any kind of a retail store. It's even small for mortgage.
Done. Okay.
Thank you again, Your Honor. I appreciate the additional dialogue here. I appreciate all of your thoughtful comments on this, and what we all are trying to do is what's best for our downtown. Absolutely. I mean, that's why we care about this, and that's why we're grateful for the businesses that we have and the variety that we hope to maintain. If this were to pass, the number would actually change from up to 31% office. So we would actually be on par with the number of retail. And we've had 14 requests in the recent memory here, and 57% of those have been approved, hence the continued growth in the office space here. It's just with all the other opportunities that we have for office space, I'll continue to lean against this particular one. But I did have a clarifying question on the notion of the special use staying with the applicant, and I again appreciate his investment in our community here as owning the property. Will this stay with him as the individual who owns it, or would this stay with the particular business license? So if something were to happen and he grew and couldn't fit in that space anymore with his mortgage company, would he then, would it revert back to retail even if he chose to own it and do something different? Or would he, as long as he owns the building, would it be in his hands to run as an office as he sees fit?
What the Planning Commission recommended and what's before you in your motion is the Planning Commission has recommended approval for Van Dyke Mortgage operated by Andrew Gilbert. Should the property be sold or transferred, the special land use approval shall cease. Does that answer your question?
The property or if the business?
Well, if the property's sold, well, I guess we could say the property or business. I mean, the first sentence speaks to the business part, where
Right.
it's Van Dyke Mortgage operated by Andrew Gilbert.
Yep. Okay.
But you can, certainly, Planning Commission, that's what Planning Commission recommended. It's within City Council's power to change the motion, make an amendment.
Thank you.
Councilman Cadeckel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Amy? Thank you, Ms. Vanson, for your work, too. So you're saying if Van Dyke Mortgage goes out of business and it becomes Gilbert Mortgage, or it becomes another mortgage company, it ceases, correct? It's under the title of Van Dyke, or?
What the Planning Commission, and if the chairperson disagrees with me, please pipe in if I
Sold or
misunderstood it. It was that it was for Van Dyke Mortgage operated by Mr. Gilbert. I think the Planning Commission felt that this was an owner, Mr. Gilbert owned this building, and he wanted to put his business that he manages right now in it. And they felt that that was appropriate. He's made an investment in the city and he wants to continue it. So it's going to be for Van Dyke Mortgage operated by Andrew Gilbert. It would not be for, if Mr. Gilbert wants to go off on his own and do something else, then that's another consideration. If he sells or decides to no longer be the manager of Van Dyke Mortgage, and somebody else wants to come in and manage Van Dyke Mortgage, that would be, again, a different owner-operator. So it's tied to Mr. Gilbert having the Van Dyke Mortgage business there.
So you have to have both
I
components.
believe so. Is that correct? Thank you.
The way I'm understanding it.
Okay.
Both components.
Yes.
Gilbert and Van Dyke.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Amy. So if he grew exponentially, which we hope he does, and moves to a larger building in Berkeley, and wants to keep his building but rent it out.
Then if the new tenant wants to operate a competing mortgage firm, they would be right back before the Planning Commission and City Council. Same review process.
But it could
or
be
if it's going to
retail.
be, yes, or it could be retail. So if it's going to be a very small cake shop or whatever, yes, then it's, clean slate, we're looking at a brand new use.
Thank you.
Sure.
Very good. Anybody else? Anything else? My thoughts are that I agree with the larger context of the discussion, that we want to make every effort to increase the retail representation on Coolidge and in the city. What persuades me to support this tonight is the man owns the business and the man owns the building. I would find it very difficult to vote against it on the basis of that alone. It is 590 square feet, it's small, and it's therefore not amenable to a great deal of options. It is amenable to some, and that it is limited to his operation, as we just had explained nicely. I feel that the larger question still remains, irrespective of how this vote goes. We have to focus more as a city on increasing the retail businesses in our city, and particularly along Coolidge. And so I will be voting affirmatively on this one, but still pushing the effort to make sure we increase, because I think Mayor Pro Tem is exactly right. We have to advance the representation of those businesses in our city, and we need to be proactive in that effort as well. Anything else? Very good. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on M1616?
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
No.
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. Thank you all for your discussion and thoughtful input on that very important decision. And thank you for being here.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 4?
Motion number M1716, matter of amending the City of Berkeley's fee schedule to allow the assessment of a 5% administrative fee to be added to the total amount charged when a person uses a credit card as form of payment, effective April 3rd, 2016.
Is there a motion to approve M1716?
Motion to approve?
Support.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Edgar with support by Councilmember Kadeco. Chief?
It's our intent to make the use of on-site credit cards a citywide policy. The library director, Matt Church, has volunteered to serve as the pilot project for this. Matt?
All right, thank you. Very glad to be here tonight. One of the goals for the library this year was to begin accepting credit cards as a form of payment. Once I started working with Finance Director David Sabuda, we started to see a potential for this project throughout the city. So we're pursuing this at the library as a pilot project. We looked at a few options to accomplish this goal and decided to work with our current bank provider, Flagstar. They offer a product called Clover that would suit our needs well. It's a little device that plugs into a tablet. It does allow you to swipe the stripe or dip the chip in bank terminology there. So it works with the older style credit cards and also the newer style credit cards. Costs for this project is pretty minimal. We needed to purchase a tablet for this, a one-time investment. The city would own the tablet, and then a one-time purchase of the Clover unit for about $30, and then we'll pay a $5 monthly maintenance charge to Flagstar for the Clover unit. Flagstar charges a set percentage of 2.69%, along with a processing fee of 5 cents per transaction. So we wanted to kind of streamline the acceptance of credit cards by setting a set percentage fee that we would apply to all transactions. That percentage fee would help us recoup our expenses to offer this service, and 5% is what we found to be the best balance of recouping our expenses, but also not making much money on the endeavor either. Basically passing along a uniform charge to the user for the convenience of using the credit card. And then $1 would be the minimum charge accepted. So we would be adding on the 5% to any transaction dealing with a credit card. And of course, if someone doesn't wish to pay the 5%, they can pay with cash or check. That doesn't change. So we expect this to be a very popular service with people. We are a hotspot for the yard waste tags, for example. I expect we'll do a steady business of those in the summer months. So I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Councilmember Stedman.
First of all, do you or does anybody up here know of any other cities that have this policy?
Yes, there are other municipalities that pass the convenience fee on. I know if you go to Oakland County Health Department and get a flu shot and pay with a credit card, they have a set schedule out with a certain fee for swiping a credit card. It's comparable to if you pay gas, buy gas at a gas station, pay cash, you get a lower price. If you use your credit
Right.
card, you pay a higher price.
Right. And also, what was it? Oh, you said the $1 would be the maximum. That's in the library. Would that be the maximum for a water bill?
No, I'm sorry, the minimum is the $1.
Or minimum.
Minimum is
of
$1.
a
Yes.
dollar. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, I didn't understand that. Okay.
Our water
Now
bills
I
are
do.
more than that.
Water bill sadly is more than that.
Councilmember Kadeco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr.
Right,
Church,
yeah,
for
but
your
when it's-
efforts.
when it's
I mean, to
expanded.
me, it's a no-brainer because it says, right here that if someone doesn't want to use the credit card, they could still use cash or check. So we're just making it convenient for those that want to use credit card.
That's
Thank
right.
you again.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Your Honor. Matt, thank you. This is awesome stuff. Love this kind of thing. I think a quick clarification, the dollar you mentioned wasn't like the minimum charge that meaning the fee. It's like the minimum of $1 item.
Yes, that's right.
Purchased. And then the
Okay.
fee would be like,
All right.
a couple of cents on top of that. 5
Yes,
cents
it'd be
or something.
5%. So if you rented a video for $1 and wanted to use your credit card, it'd be $1.05.
Yeah. So it's not like $1 charge. It's a
That's
dollar
right.
thing.
Right.
Perfect.
We don't want someone using a credit card for one photocopy of 15 cents. It just
Correct.
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, yeah. And you mentioned this being a pilot. This might be a broader question for another day, but I know that throughout the entire city operations, having this option would certainly make a lot of sense, whether folks are going to DPW to get a recycle bin or something like that, or I know our colleagues that volunteer at the Historical Museum lament the lost opportunity to sell a history book or a coffee mug because we haven't had this ability to process credit cards in the museum. And so I'm certainly eagerly in favor of supporting this tonight and encouraging the thoughtful progression of this throughout the rest of city operations, like by next week, so that we can continue to enjoy this, take this to Art Bash, all the kinds of things that we can do to make it more convenient as people move to a cashless and paperless transaction system.
Right.
So, way to go, good job, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Did Mr. Sabuda want to weigh in there?
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you very much. Please know that right now, we can take credit cards over for water bills and for taxes online. There's a convenience fee that is charged and paid directly to the vendor. Also at the Recreation Department, credit cards are used. In a similar manner, we build the cost into the program so that we can recover our costs with the bank charges. And also with Dream Cruise, same program, okay? We use the credit cards there also. And again, we build the cost of that bank charge into the fees that people pay for goods, and we recoup our costs there. Please know that if we start tomorrow to the end of the fiscal year, we expect to spend about $500 on bank service charges. And then for a full year, around $1,200. So keep that in mind. The equipment is small, but those charges add up quickly when people start running through that, running through those, presenting the card and paying for their service. So thank you very much for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Anything else on this? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. To build on that, to Mr. Sabuda, the dollars amounts that you mentioned, that's going to be recouped, right? So it's
5% fee.
correct, right? So those dollar amounts that you mentioned aren't like an additional out of city expense that we won't recoup. That's actually going to be fully recuperated by the
We're
convenience.
anticipating that the 5% service charge that we're putting onto the cost will cover that $500 and $1,200 annually. That's what
Good.
we're hoping.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Very good. Seeing no additional discussion on this then, Ms. Bowders, will you please call the roll on M1716?
Baker?
Yes.
Edgar?
Yes.
Kadeco?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Gerbrack?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. And now, Ms. Bowders, would you please read item number 5?
Motion number M1816, matter of authorizing the interim city manager to accept the calendar year 2016 Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan Library Grant in the amount of $5,769 and to accept the conditions of that grant.
Is there a motion to approve M1816?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Stedman, support by Councilmember Edgar. Comes down to this, Chief.
And now it
Will you
passed
accept?
over.
Will you
Yes, I
accept?
will.
Will somebody accept $5,000?
Happily.
So, Matt.
Matt.
Thank you. So the library has an endowment fund. It was started in 1999 through a bequest to the library. The funds are managed through the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan. The funds go towards the general operation of the city. We're very grateful to receive the support year after year. It is part of the revenue in the budget, and it does grow throughout the years as people make individual contributions to the endowment as well. So it's not locked in place for all of eternity, but we can add money to it and have it grow even further. So we're very grateful for this support, and I imagine you'll want to accept.
And if there's anybody listening that would like to make a donation to to the library,
Yes.
how would they go about it?
There is a form on the website. You can also go to the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, donate directly to them, just indicating that the support goes to the Berkley Public Library.
Thank you. Any additional questions on this item? Very good. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on M1816?
Edgar?
Yes.
Kadeco?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. Now,
you.
Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 6?
Resolution number R1116, matter of approving an agreement with Oakland County to provide Equalization Division Assistance Services to the City of Berkeley from July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2019.
Is there a motion to approve R1116?
Move to approve.
Moved to approve by Councilmember Kadeco,
Support.
support by Councilmember Edgar. Chief?
All right, this is the standard 3-year contract renewal with Oakland County for property value assessments. The City Finance Director, Mr. Sabuda, will address this matter.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and council members. What you have before you this evening is, again, a 3-year deal from Oakland County Equalization. This is a very valuable and a very good service that we receive from Oakland County. Not only do we get real property assessment services, we get personal property assessment services, and we also get tax tribunal legal services from the county. Whenever I have a question or a staff member has a question in regards to property splits or taxes or assessing, Oakland County staff is there to service us through this contract. And they provide a wonderful service. I think all of you have met Jane Stafford. She's our assessor. She does a wonderful job, does the board of review, the 3 sessions in July, December, and in March. And we couldn't hire people to do those 3 services at this cost. We're estimating $113,000 a year for 3 years, or $339,000. We spent 107 last fiscal year. We're anticipating spending 109 this fiscal year. And what's driving up the cost is property splits and mail. So when you pay for postage, that drives up. So if you have more parcels, mail gets more expensive. This time they are driving up real property costs by 2.9% and personal property by, real property by 2.9% and personal property by 3.2%. However, what does that translate into? We're going from $13.60 a parcel on the real side to $14 a parcel. And then on personal property, we're going from $12.40 to $12.80 per parcel. And again, that'll come out to about $113,000 a year for the next 3 years. Be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Any questions for Mr. Sabuda? Very good. Seems like it's a good deal and a wise decision to continue this. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on R1116?
Kadeco?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Edgar?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 7?
Work session, matter of discussing a proposed special events approval process.
Is there a motion to go into a work session?
Motion to go into work session.
Motion
Support.
by Councilmember Turbrack with support by Mayor Pro Tem Baker. Chief?
Okay, we're simply attempting to standardize and coordinate the various processes for reviewing and approval of different types of special events. We're all over the map on how we receive these and how we process them. We're seeking to be consistent, fair, and effective in the review process. The city planner, Ms. Amy Vanson, can address this matter.
Good evening. As Chief Eshman indicated, and as my memo indicates, Dream Cruise 2015 kind of highlighted a whole lot of institutional knowledge that went and retired, and it became very apparent that a lot of our events are handled very differently, and so the department heads and I sat down and chatted about how do you handle that, and how do you handle that, and how do we want to handle that, and especially we have some new events that are coming online possibly, and so it really highlighted the need to maybe firm this up a little bit instead of, well, we've been doing it that way since 1974 and nothing's written down. So as I indicated, we have some events that are handled through a form and pay a fee, and they come to council. And some write a letter, and they don't pay a fee, and they come to council. All of these events cost the city more than what the fee is, that if we take a fee in, which sometimes we don't. Public Works had, last year, had figured out how much Art Bash costs, and it costs about $2,000 in personnel costs. It's fair to say that Cruise Fest, the Holiday Parade, Berkley Days have similar costs to the city. So we discussed fee versus no fee, and we discussed sort of how to quarterback things and what should go to council and what shouldn't go. So what we're looking at is that anything that would involve public property or a commercial street would fill out this form and would come before council for approval. So a residential block group, they want to have a block party, that's not coming before council. But if it's a business event or like the Robina Rhapsody or something like that, that typically does come to council because that's a commercial street, that little section of Robina. And you can see the form that we all work together on. Now, you do have an updated form before you, and I apologize for that. We had gotten all the ideas together, and then we had discussed it at a staff meeting, and our finance director had a lot of good points. And as you all know, March was a really busy month here, and so my memo was written in February, and Mr. Sabuta's items, they just got missed in all the other fun and games we were having in March. So you have the amended form in front of you that would deal with the liability issues and things like that are important if they're going to be on our streets and having really fun events. So one of the things that I definitely wanted to hear what council had to say about it is we have some groups that pay and some groups don't, and that's for a very good reason in some cases. Sometimes maybe it's just the way it's always been done. What we had talked about as a staff was having everybody pay the $200, well, $200 plus a $100 cleanup bond, and then when council considers the motion, they can instruct whether or not that should be reimbursed or not, rather than staff having to decide whether or not something should pay or shouldn't pay. And so that was sort of on staff's part, sort of our concern is deciding who's a winner, who's paying and who isn't, especially if there's new groups coming, and who should be included and who shouldn't. But obviously that you're going to hear about that. You're going to hear about it probably if they're asked to fill out a form instead of write a letter. So that's why we wanted to bring this before you to let you know what our thoughts were with it. So we did have good reasons for wanting to make it fair and make sure all the people that need to know about it, you'll see that there's sections for each department to sign off on it instead of, I know we were discussing where because of the changes in personnel, I forgot to call and tell them this, and so this is a way to make sure that doesn't happen.
Very good. Any discussion? Councilman Regner.
Would the $200 apply to block parties as well?
No, this would only be for, this is only,
For
that's
the
all
main
handled through
events,
public
kind of
safety.
thing,
This
yeah.
is kind of the main community special event, so.
That was my
commercials,
concern.
Public property or commercial streets.
Great.
What about this $200 and $100? And then it gets waived and then they get it returned to them.
Right.
I mean, is that a bit cumbersome? If we're going to waive it, somebody's going to have to write a check then. And from some organizations, they may not have somebody, be out of their personal money maybe.
Right.
I was just wondering if there wasn't a way, if we are going to waive it, that we would not have to put them through that piece of writing that check. I don't know how we'd get around,
I don't know.
the chicken or the egg here, which comes first.
Right, and I think the hard part is right now we have some groups that do pay and some that don't.
Right.
And if we have a new group coming aboard, how does staff decide that? That's the hard part. That's where we have that, how do we pick? And
I think the assistant city manager has a thought.
she has an idea.
Excuse me. Good evening. This is really, how do I want to say this? There are times when it just makes sense to waive the fee. I cannot give you a specific example with respect to this application, but I know that when we do have an application process for film permits, and there are times when a fee might be waived if a student is filming a short scene in the street. I'm not going to charge them $150 for that short project, but it's got to meet criteria, and we do examine those things. On this application, each organization who submits one is required to submit their 501c3 if they're nonprofit. There's other documentation that they must submit, and we can look at all of that. And if they request a waiver, we would at least have some information where we can decide. If it is unclear, we might make a recommendation to City Council to waive it. And that way the decision would not be made up front, but there would be a larger consideration of it, and you can review the merits of it yourself.
Okay. Are there any, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. Just on a technical question on the, less on the 200, but on the 100. So if you could explain a little bit about the cleanup bond. If somebody has to write a check anyway, that would maybe get returned if they do a good job cleaning up, then is that how we should process that, or understand what the cleanup bond is all about?
We may have to give that a little bit more thought, but this is the deal. So every time there is an event, somebody does have to clean up, and it costs the city more than $100 to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality of it. We will never recover the total amount that we spend on these events. We'll never get back the overtime that public safety spends on the Cruise Fest, as an example. We'll never get the time that Public Works spends putting up barricades on a Saturday. We will not recover that time, those funds with this fee. This is a very small fee, not meant to be prohibitive. It's just something to help on the administrative side with getting things in place, because it's not just one person who looks at the application. Several hands have to touch it just to make sure that we have all bases covered.
Is that fee currently a part of the applicants that currently are waived right now, for example? Do they still have to pay, is that a fee part of what they pay, or they don't pay anything right now?
Currently, nobody pays anything for the, I'm sorry, come on, correct me, come on.
They're in the memo mentioned a
It
couple.
became apparent some do and some don't.
Right,
Yes.
okay. And the ones that don't, they don't pay anything, so no cleanup bond or anything, correct?
And that's handled through a separate department,
Right,
so that's
okay,
part of
okay.
our trying to streamline this, because if one department's doing it because they've always done it one way, it's handled through a letter method or what have you, and then other things are handled through a form and a fee, and community special events under the fee schedule are $200 plus a $100 cleanup bond.
If I could further make another point, we all do have the same information about who pays what. So there really is a need to standardize the process.
No, I completely agree, if I may
Yeah, go ahead.
continue. Yeah, we need to standardize things, just because it's silly for you two, for example, to not have the same information, and things have, just because things have happened a certain way over time doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best way to do it, it's just the way that it's been happening. I definitely support the idea to standardize this and make sure that we're all, on the same playing field and all have the same information. What I have questions about, so there are groups for whatever reason don't pay and maybe should not pay, and I don't want, I feel like it would be cumbersome, almost silly for council to be up here deciding, well, when we get this, okay, so now we're going to have these people pay or not, and get up here into a debate over the $200. I understand the point of it. I'm not saying to not do it. I just think there's got to be some criteria. Those that were waived in the past, I I guess, why were they being waived? Aside from that's just the way it's always been. Is there a certain criteria that they meet for what's been happening in the city with whatever they're doing that the city has said, yes, we want to not? I just feel like there's more that we need to kind of flesh out here amongst all of us to kind of figure out why we've been doing the things we're doing, and then figure out why we're changing it, and what the best way is going to be to continue moving forward for all of us. I just think it'd save a lot of headaches for everybody involved.
We kind of went through that process too, what you just went through just now. And one thing that we do know, that as we go through this process, there's going to be some fine tuning of it. The first group that fills this application out is going to, quite frankly, be the test case.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to come up with, we're going to be learning.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be learning. But the bottom line is that there will be no group who will apply for a special event application who's going to be asked to pay for the total cost of what it costs the city to actually support the event. I mean, $200 is a very small amount. $100 is a small amount compared to what is actually costing the city.
And at the same time, and I'll wrap up, I think this application that we're looking at now, we certainly want to encourage and make it as easy, I suppose, for folks who want to put on these events to be able to do those in our city without having a lot of undue, we got to fill out this has got to go through here, and here. I think, one, that's good, and two, administratively, it's going to make things much more efficient for us as well. If we have something standardized, we know what's coming. Hopefully that improves everybody's life as opposed to making things difficult and just putting up a bunch of red tape to put up red tape. That's not at all what we're doing here, and I think we all agree on that.
That is absolutely not the intent to make it harder.
Certainly. Thank you.
Yeah.
To make it more efficient.
Right.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you again, Your Honor. I absolutely echo my colleague's sentiment. We jumped right into the details of this. Drove right past the gratitude for the overall intent, right, to help streamline the process for the city to be as efficient as possible in processing these, and also from clarity perspective for those who seek to apply for such a thing, to say, here's what it is, here's how you work it. So I absolutely agree, and the need for this, and celebrate the fact that we're here. I love the work session things because it's a chance to really work it out. So I think that's fantastic. So having said that, I want to get right back into the weeds for a second. I think you're exactly right with getting some test cases and working it through, because in my mind, I'm still trying to sort out what's in scope and what's out of scope for this. And so at the bottom, it has some great, I think this is the right kind of language. It talks about applications received 45 days ahead of the event and all that. And I guess that makes sense if it's a big enough event. And it says events involving the public right-of-way will require city council approval. That implies that there are some conditions where it may not need city council approval, otherwise we wouldn't have the sentence there. So I wasn't sure if it meant, things that don't involve the public right-of-way don't have to go to council, or, the different ways to parse that. So not to solve that particular thing now, but just that language struck the thought, says, if this says here's what does require, then maybe there are things that don't require city council approval. And if we make the $200 contingent upon council's adjudication of it, then what happens to the people that don't need to go to council and pay the $200, that kind of stuff. So I agree that I definitely want to move forward with something like this, and let's just all continue to be thoughtful of the positive intentions that we're seeking to do with this, and then we want to work it out and capture it and refine this as we go forward. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so thank you.
Very good. Anybody, Councilmember Kadek?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Real quick, I don't want to repeat everything. I'm pretty much in agreement with them. I think it gives us a good checks and balance as to who's doing what. All the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. I'm looking at, with public safety involved, with administration, everybody. That way, he'll know what's happening. You'll know what's happening. We'll all know what's happening there. I just, it's the fee, who does and who doesn't. That's the part that, I'm trying to figure out in my mind too, who would be eligible to pay and who wouldn't be. But I like the idea of the form itself, and that way everybody's on the same page. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good, thank you. I have a question for our attorney. On the other issue, the hold harmless agreement, this is in accord with Hoyle?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. It protects us. as
That's
city.
the intention.
Okay, that's right. Any additional input for administration on this? So do you feel you have a sense now to kind of go forward with this
I think we can go forward.
and streamline it?
We've got some things we know we need to tweak.
Yeah.
And we'll we'll let you know kind of how it flushes out.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for the work on this. And now we come to the communications portion of tonight's meeting, and Councilmember Kadekel is up first.
I am? Oh. All right. Caught me off guard. All right, first of all, Berkeley's rabies vaccination clinic is Saturday, April 16th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. across the street at the Public Safety Fire Hall. I guess you can contact the clerk, Ms. Spelcher, if you have any questions. And so right after you're done doing your walk for the Arbor Tree, annual Berkeley Tree Walk, you can bring your pet over there and get vaccinated. This past a couple weeks ago, the mayor and a couple of my colleagues, we attended a Capitol Conference in Lansing. It was very good. I think I mentioned it at the last council meeting that I did some work in Frankenmuth before that, and just continued doing some more with Michigan Municipal League. And they have breakout sessions, and we all go to different sessions. And what's really good about those is they bring in professionals, and you can find out what's happening almost up to date with the legislations going on and everything. And one of the breakout sessions I attended was called Factor Advocacy, Communicating with Your Residents About a Local Ballot Issue. And that's all about the gag order and about whether we could speak about what's on the ballot, 60 days before or whatever. There are some people that'd like to see it repealed. There are some people who'd like to see it revised. But it was really interesting. They were just trying to bring us up to date with what's happening with it. And right now it's at a stalemate. Nothing's happening at this moment. But that doesn't mean tomorrow it will change. So going to these conferences, meeting people from other municipalities, hearing from professionals is an advantage that we have to help our own municipality, and I'm glad that I was able to attend. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Tarbreck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, I want to update everybody on the city manager situation. At last meeting, the mayor mentioned that we were getting close to signing some documents, and those documents have been signed on behalf of the city and Mr. Matt Baumgarten. He has a time commitment that he needs to fulfill now in his current position in Lathrop Village, and when that commitment has been fulfilled, he will then be move into the role here as city manager. We are expecting that to happen around the end of May, possibly early June. There's potential that the dates could shift just a little bit, but that's what we are looking at. I want to just take a moment to thank everybody throughout the process. It's been a number of months, and the city has been moving along absolutely flawlessly, and I want to certainly thank the chief for everything that he's done as interim. Darshell, assistant two at the beginning, now the assistant city manager, Darshell for everything that she has done, and the rest of staff, department heads. Everybody's been fantastic, continuing to move the city along, continuing to progress. It's not just that we were sitting still, we're doing great things just as we always do, and that's a testament to the tremendous heart and the tremendous staff that we have in the city. And Matt is very lucky to be coming into the city with such great dedicated staff. So I want to thank all of them. Certainly, there's been a lot of extra responsibility placed on the staff members, and it's been tremendous. I also want to take a quick moment to thank the committee, members of the committee, Mayor Pro Tem Steve Baker and Councilmember Jack Blanchard, although they are not here. They were absolutely integral and pivotal in this process, working along with the MML to identify candidates, going through a number of resumes, having input on the events and how everything came to be in terms of meeting the candidates and the interviews, and having the process that we went through that was largely as a result of the MML with input from the committee. So I certainly want to thank Steve and Jack for the extra time that they put in. And finally, I want to thank the residents. We set out from the very from the onset of this, saying that we wanted the residents to be involved in this process. And that was not just lip service from us because we thought it was the right thing to say. It is a community decision. The city manager is somebody that everybody in this city interacts with, whether you're a resident, whether you're an employee, whether you're passing through, it does not matter. So it was vital for us to have the input from the residents and at least 1 to 2 opportunities for the residents to get to meet these candidates and to voice their opinion. And we had that, and I've heard from residents that were there that were very pleased to have that opportunity. And it makes our job so much easier when we already get an opportunity to interact with the residents beforehand, and then certainly us holding the interviews, the public interviews that a number of folks were also at as well. That's why we're such a great city, because our residents care, they're passionate, they get involved, and when we ask for their support and their involvement, they come out and support all of us. So the process may have been more time consuming than some of us may have wanted, but we went through a process very specifically, a way that we wanted to, and I think it worked out very well for the city. And again, I just want to take this opportunity to thank everybody in the city that was involved. And the next time we talk about this, it'll probably be because Mr. Baumgarten is going to be sitting over there. There's not a whole lot left in the interim from this time on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. Continuing with the MML theme here for a moment. As mentioned, several of us did attend the recent Capitol Conference. And shout out to our Finance Director, Mr. Sabuda, who was there for many of the sessions as well. Thank you for your continued engagement in that. And it was a real treat. So we have tremendous capabilities and assets here within our city, and one of them was recognized and appreciated for the leadership role that our mayor offers. Dr. Phil O'Dwyer was nominated and unanimously voted onto the board of directors for the Mayor's Association of Michigan, which was a great honor for him, and I think, quite honestly, for that association. It brings Phil's voice of wisdom and experience and thoughtful leadership to that group, which I think will heed your words and help further the cause. When we think about the Association of Mayors and what that body has to offer, I think you can and will and already have made material contributions to their work, and thank you for representing us on that board and bringing such an important voice to them and for us. I think that's fantastic. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Steve.
Just a couple other quick things along those lines. One of the things that the league does, in addition to recognizing excellent talent when they see it, is helping us understand where we're at as a community, things that have gone well or as a state of communities, things that have gone well and things that haven't. And one of the things that hasn't gone well for us as municipalities is the notion of a state revenue that has been designated in the past and directed to the municipalities so that we can do the kinds of things that we do, whether it's sewer lining that we heard about earlier, or programming at the libraries, or making sure that we have safe processes in place for community events. As a state, we've lost, as a state full of municipalities, we've lost over $7.5 billion with a B, $7.5 billion since 2002. That would have been and should have been appropriated to municipalities to put to good thoughtful use in their communities. And over that time span from 2002, not only have we lost the $7.5 billion, but we are the only state in this great nation that has not seen the revenue grow for their municipalities. They put a chart together. You probably can't see it, but basically if you see everything that's going up, except there's one little red line over here, that's us. Michigan has gone down in the revenue appropriated to communities by almost 10% in that span. Meanwhile, the average increase is over 40% of funding to municipalities in order for folks like us to do the kinds of things that we need to do to help provide such quality services. So on the one hand, I could say, look how awesome we are in spite of that. And I do happen to think that Berkeley's done a tremendous job in spite of the handicap that our state continues to to bring upon us, but it's through the efforts of the league that make this kind of thing very apparent. And this is just one example. I'd like to offer a website address that you may choose to visit if you do, and you can learn about this and much more. It's called SaveMyCity.org. And by my, they mean the M-I as in Michigan. So it's save, S-A-V-E-M-I, city.org, SaveMyCity.org. Take a look at that. There's all sorts of charts and information about what's been going on at to our municipalities and the kinds of things that we can do to help make a difference. So I just wanted to offer that as some additional value that the league provides is awareness that we can understand what's going on. And finally, it was Carol Hillman who once wrote, "One of the most important things that we adults can do for our kids is to be the kind of person that we would like them to be." And again, Carol Hillman said, "One of the most important things that we adults can do for our kids is to be the kind of person we would like them to be." Now, if you guys remember about this time last year, I mentioned that April of last year was National Distracted Driving Awareness Month. And good news, we're in April, and so it means it's National Distracted Driving Awareness Month again this time. But it's all that much more important about the kind of role model that we can and should be for our kids in terms of just putting the gadgets away. Now, distracted driving is more than just texting. I tend to focus on that a lot. But distracted driving includes texting, cell phones, eating and drinking, talking to the passengers in the back seat, grooming, reading, navigation systems.
I never do that, Steve.
Those kinds of things. But again, the cell phone use continues to be just crazy. In 2011, 52% of drivers reported owning a smartphone. 2011. In 2014, just a couple years later, it's gone from 52 to 80% of drivers. The greatest increase, adults over 40, increase in the use of cell phones. At any given daylight moment across this great country of ours, approximately 660,000 people, 660,000 drivers are using cell phones or playing with their gadgetry while they're driving. That number has steadily increased, that has held steady since 2010, in spite of all the awareness and communication going on with that. And surprisingly, I think this is surprising, it's surprising to me, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration surveyed drivers ages 18 to 20. 20% of them said that texting has no impairment on their driving capabilities. And ages 21 to 34, 30% said that they can drive just fine while texting away. And you guys heard me last year talk about the statistic of 5 seconds. Right? 5 seconds is all it takes to look away, look at your gadget or whatever. In the span of going 5 seconds at 55 miles an hour, you cover the distance of an entire football field, blind, operating, 4,000 or 5,000 pound machine. 5 seconds, a football field, blind. Just that boggles my mind. It's very crazy. Two additional websites to check out: distraction.gov. Don't do this while you're driving, please. Distraction.gov and itcanwait.com. Itcanwait.com. They even make mobile apps now that you can download, and it detects if you're driving, if you're going faster than a certain speed, and it'll automatically shut off that kind of stuff. I would like to hope that I wouldn't need that kind of thing, that I could have the discipline to put it away, but sometimes I've been very thankful to have that gadget kick in. It sends an automatic text response back to whoever tried to text me, and it says, sorry, Baker's driving right now, leave him alone, kind of thing. It doesn't actually say that. But I appreciate the fact that gadgetry can help save you from yourself, I suppose, but at the end of the day, do the right thing. Think about your task, right? You are meant to drive from point A to point B, at least until we have regional transit in place, and you have a choice. But until then, please be careful. Take care of yourselves. You are too important to the city, to your family, and to yourself to do anything less than that. Thank you.
Thank you. And can you imagine when you add attention deficit disorder to all these other distractions?
Huh?
Councillor Stedman.
Okay. First of all, the Beautification Committee, there is a meeting on Wednesday night, and they are looking for volunteers to walk on Saturday, April 16th. from door to door, leaving flyers on the doorknobs of each door that does not have a tree in the easement. I did want to say one thing about trees in the easement, though. I had a tree in my easement that was cut down a few years ago, and since it was cut down, I have no longer am getting roots in my sewer line. So when you plant your tree in the easement, make sure it is far enough away from that sewer line so that it doesn't cause basement backups. Just a word of caution. The library, other than the viewing of Star Wars: The Force Awakens this Saturday, they have some other things coming up in April. They're having a tree board program, a program with the tree board on Monday, April 11th at 7 p.m. And it's going to be on urban forestry and the services this person's company has. And then April 19th at 6:30, the history of the Redford Theater, which opened in 1928. Reading Makes Sense, family story time for kids will be April 28th at 10:30 a.m. Origami for beginners, Saturday, April 23rd at 1. And Family Movie at the Library, Norm of the North, Saturday, April 30th at 3 o'clock. So there's a lot of things going on at the library. Thank you, Matt. And I'm sure he's still getting crowds. I also went to this convention, and there was one part that stood out a lot, quite a bit for me. One meeting that I went to, and it was about dark stores. I've always wondered why the Kmart in Madison Heights, the Kmart in Troy, and the Kmart in Oak Park have been empty for so long, and nothing seems to be happening with them. There's not a big store moving in. And it's because there's deed restrictions to these big boxes, all big boxes, multiple deed restrictions. You cannot sell it to another store that sells what is sold in that store. So if it can't be like a Bed Bath & Beyond because they sell bedding and so on. It can't be a bicycle store because they sell bicycles. So there's so many deed restrictions that these buildings remain empty. There's the House and the Senate are working on it. There's a House bill, it's 4909, which will prevent the use of deed restrictions in future big box construction. But right now, it would give the owner 90 days to sell it with the deed restrictions, and then the restrictions would fall off. So if that goes through, they might be able to sell these big buildings. They're not valuable enough to be renovated into another big box store, and there's a whole big deal about the assessed valuation. But in the meantime, these big box stores and the ones that are going out of business and laying empty are getting a whole lot of tax breaks. And this is where it relates to what you were saying about what's not coming to municipalities and what is not coming to education. Lowe's, for example, in Michigan, just Lowe's gets $8 million annually in tax breaks. In the state of Ohio, their total tax breaks for big box stores is $120 million. Michigan is very close to that. These tax breaks that they are getting, this $120 million, is coming from municipalities and it's coming from school districts. It's coming from any kind of services that we used to have. So this is a really big problem in the state of Michigan. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Before I lose my voice.
It's a big problem. Councilmember Edgar.
Thank you, sir. I want to remind everyone again that Saturday, April 16th at 10 a.m., volunteers will be delivering 2,000 door hangers throughout the community, so look for them. We would like to plant more than 100 trees this fall during the annual tree sale. The Planning Commission this month saw another site plan, and although it wasn't complete, it proves to be an interesting development. I'd like to echo my colleague's opinion about Matt and the people who worked to bring him to the city and to get him approved and welcome him on board. It is with a multitude of various emotions that I announce the necessity to step down from my position as member of the Berkeley City Council. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to serve the citizens of the city that I have lived in and loved for 17+ years. I'm sorry to lose the opportunity to collaborate with my 5 fantastic fellow council members and our illustrious mayor. I have valued and will deeply miss our cooperative spirit, the joy we found in creating new possibilities and finding workable solutions to the issues that affect our city. I am continually impressed with the residents, employees, and volunteers who dedicate themselves to help make Berkeley one of the best places to live, to work, and to play in all of Michigan. I feel fortunate to have learned so much in the time that I have spent serving on council and hope to utilize these skills as I move forward into new life experiences. I am confident that my replacement will enjoy his or her time on the council as much as I have, and I am certain the council's choice will be of service to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Isham.
Nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Sabuda.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing this evening.
Mr. Attorney.
Well, in view of Council Member Edgar's remarks, I probably do have something to comment. And it's really bittersweet because on the one hand, I'm sure I speak for a lot of people and that wish you well in your endeavors. At the same time, feel some sadness that you've been a valuable part of this team and you'll surely be sorely missed. We do have a procedure, or we do have provisions in our charter, our city charter, that talk about vacancies in office. Ms. Edgar is announcing her resignation this evening. By charter, the council is required to move forward to appoint a replacement, or a successor, I should say, to fill that vacancy. In this particular case, that successor would serve until the November 2017 election, which is the next municipal election. Also happens to correspond when Ms. Edgar's term would be expiring. There is no procedure spelled out in the charter. Really, the only requirement for someone to be a council member, don't want to downplay it or be dismissive, but it's to be, if you're a registered elector of the city, you're eligible.
No qualifications necessary.
But certainly the council will put in far more thought and consider many things beyond just whether someone is a registered elector. As I said, there is no established procedure, but I think the city has had a practice of having an open procedure and really inviting the public, the residents of the city, to express their interest and make application for that, to allow council to perhaps consider them at the next meeting, or certainly sometime within the next 30 days, however soon the council is ready to act. And I think consistent with past practice, the council has typically instructed the administration to publish an advertisement or a notice, both in the news as well as on the website, giving some period of time, usually relatively short, a week or two, for those interested citizens out there to provide an application with their resume or credentials to the city clerk, and provide that information to the council so that you can make a thoughtful decision in appointing the successor to Ms. Edgar.
Very good. And does that conclude? Are there any questions for the attorney on this? Very good. So there will be...
If I talk long enough, I guess I answer all the questions.
So it will be on the website, the process, and the application will go to the city clerk, and we will follow the process then as outlined. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There will be an opportunity for members of the council to express their gratitude to Tina over the period of the next few meetings. And so tonight, I will just say on behalf of everybody that we thank you and we appreciate your contribution to the city and your collegial spirit in working well with all of us and with all of our employees. It is a serious commitment to devote time, one's time and talent to moving the city forward and dealing with the knotty kinds of decisions that we get to decide up here. And you saw one of them this evening that caused several of us to struggle on both sides of that issue. And we continue to try to make decisions that improve our city and advance our city. And you are certainly part of that, and we will miss that. But we will leave additional comments for another time. At a future council meeting, we will take that up, and everyone on council will have an opportunity to express their gratitude as well. The MML was mentioned, the Michigan Municipal League Conference. I was delighted that Councilmember Stedman got to find an answer to a question that bothered me for a long time. Where is the money going? And we thank you for telling us that it's going to big corporations and it's been taken away from municipalities and education. At least we know that. Thank you to our Mayor Pro Tem for his kind comments with regard to the Michigan Association of Mayors. I think that will be an interesting opportunity for us to have a contribution to maybe stop the money going in the direction that it is going, and encouraging money to come to municipalities and to come to education. The future of our state depends on the quality of education we provide for our people, and undercutting education at every corner is actually detrimental to the future of the state. So with that, I will close and ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn by Councilmember Kideckel.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Edgar. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll?
Kideckel?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Edgar?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. The April 4th meeting is adjourned.